was it Hibbing where you're from?
Well,
originally?
No, originally I am from here. So where it gets really confusing is my dad's name is Jim. I'm Mike. Well, I got a cousin by the name of Mike too, and his dad's name is Jim.
Okay.
So, and we both played in the NHL. It just gets it. There's a lot of stories where I've been mistaken for him. And one of the worst ones is he used to date Alanis Morissette.
He did?
Yes. And so when he dated her, she wrote the song You Oughta Know, and it's always been controversial who she wrote it about, whether it was Mike Peluso, I think it was Stamos, and that Cloutier.
Okay.
And when I was playing in Chicago, Mike had called me. He's like, "Hey, you guys are in Ottawa next week." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You should meet up with Alanis." And I had met her before, like when he was dating her. And I'm like, I don't need to meet her or go talk to her. He's like, right. No, dude, seriously, she's fun. You'll have a blast or whatever. And I'm like, whatever. I'm laying in my hotel room. My phone's ringing in the hotel. I thought it was just one of my teammates. So hello, and hey, Mike, this is Alanis. And I'm like, oh, okay, who set me up for this one? And I was like, yeah, fuck off. And hung up the phone, type deal.
Yeah.
Phone rings again. She's like, no, seriously, don't hang up. And then they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought someone was going to joke on me. So we went out that night. Well, unfortunately, paparazzi follows her around. So they took a bunch of pictures. Well, all of a sudden, like a year later, I'm back home in Bismarck, laying in my basement, just got done working out, training, and I was laying on the couch taking a nap, and I had VH1 on just first background. So they had this series on there called 101 Hollywood Most Scandalous Moments, and it got to like number 68, and it was like Alanis Morissette. So I kind of perked up because I knew what they were going to talk about because it's on a lot or whatever. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, here comes all these pictures. They're talking about that song. And all the paparazzi pictures were of me and her, not my cousin. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Oh, okay, it's 2 PM. Nobody's watching VH1. Well, my phone is just dancing across the freaking carpet because all my buddies are like, dude, you never said you dated Alanis. I'm like, no, that's not, this is not, no. So yeah, that one's the worst one out of all of them. It's like, I'm getting thrown under the rug here because that wasn't technically me. Like, yes, you were seeing pictures with me with her, but that's not. So yeah, what a mess.
Was it a fun day with her though?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
okay.
We had a blast.
What did you guys all do?
Basically went bar hopping and maybe some other stuff at the end, but yeah. Okay. But it was just like, oh no, I'm just getting totally like, it just won't leave me.
Gotcha. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
But he played in the NHL for some of the same teams too, so it's really confusing.
Yeah,
really
confusing,
but
have you ever stayed in touch with her ever since?
No, hell no.
No.
It was a one and done, and get me out of Canada.
Oh my gosh. I think she's still doing some concerts here.
Yeah, I know. She's kind of resurfacing now, so that's the worst part because now all my buddies are like, oh, hey, your girlfriend's on TV.
You can go watch her, yeah.
You guys, she's not my girlfriend. Bullshit, I read it online. I'm like, yeah, okay, everything online is true. Yeah,
everything online is true.
Everything, yeah, for sure.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's that. But no, I'm originally from here, but I played college hockey, obviously, at Duluth, but my family's from up that way. So that's kind of that's kind of why I went and played there. So.
But then where'd you go to high school then?
Bismarck High.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I didn't graduate here. I shouldn't say that. I did graduate here, but I left my senior year to play in Omaha. So in the USHL or whatever. My dad was the coach back then. He basically kicked me off the team because he's like, you're not staying here. You need to leave. You got to go. You've outgrown this. So beat it. And I'm like, really? I'm like, you're seriously like, I can't play here this year? And he's like, no, you're not playing for me.
What year was that?
That would have been 93. So I was gone from basically 93 to when I retired in almost 05.
Right.
But basically from that point on, I was gone.
But 93, what grade were you?
I was a senior that year. So I had to go to high school down at Millard North in Omaha, which was for coming from Bismarck High of 500 kids to 5,000. It's like, this isn't Kansas anymore. I was And I was a shy, reserved kid, and I walked in this place, shit in my pants because I don't know where to go, what to do. It was, I grew up fast. I mean, it just went from sheltered Bismarck life to you're now on your own, one of them deals. So yeah.
And did you go and live with like a family that
so I had a billet
placed you
there?
Okay.
And they took pretty good care of me, and I could have left after my senior year to play college hockey, but I had another year of junior eligibility, and I was like, I might as well play one more year. What the hell? There's a snooze bar of life, like there's no rush. It was probably the best thing I ever did, because then I had a great year, and tore it up and got pretty much my choice of where I wanted to go play college hockey, and I chose Duluth at that time. So but I still take a beating for not staying in North Dakota. To this day, I still catch hell.
Do you really?
Yeah, and everybody's like, why'd you go to Duluth? I said, well, kind of funny, because the coach there had a 1775 Lund Pro V on the dock. I could use it any time. They're like, isn't it an NCAA violation? I go, probably was. But
well, that's different back then.
It's well past that now, so we're good. But yeah.
So you started playing hockey. How old were you?
2.
When you were 2?
Yeah, because my mom and dad ran the rinks here in town. So I was just...
You were on skates immediately.
But I loved it. I mean, I couldn't get enough of it. So
wow.
Amazing. And then fishing, between those two things, that's all I did. And it's funny, that's all I do.
Right. So if you have to wager out, your passion in hockey and fishing, would you say one's bigger than the other?
No,
I
would say they were equal. They really were. I mean, just your everyday that was it. And to this day, it's kind of similar. I mean, I don't do as much with hockey now as I did, back then, but I still, I'm still in the loop, put it that way. I pay attention. I watch a lot of stuff. Still involved a little bit. I coach a team in the Falls, Team North Dakota. So
okay, yeah.
So I still, stay involved, but not as deep as I used to.
What was your last team you played for in your professional career?
Philadelphia Flyers.
It was the Flyers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my very last team. So.
What would you say was your best experience in the NHL with the teams you played on?
Probably Chicago when we were in Detroit. I was in the starting lineup that night, and I remember looking across the rink, and there was literally 6 Hall of Famers on the ice. Their starting lineup. It was Brett Hall, Steve Yzerman, Chelios, Hasek was in net, Larry Onoff, and Lidstrom on the point. I'm just like, what am I doing out here? And this is not for real, Because I grew up idolizing Brett Hall, and all of a sudden I'm lining up next to him, on the face-off circle. It's like, are you kidding me? Pretty cool.
After you played that night and in that game, do you feel like a week later, did you feel any different, or did it just kind of feel up and down?
The whole time I was in the NHL, it never felt real. It was like a dream world. Like it's not reality. So it does not set you up very well for life after hockey. And that's where a lot of professional athletes struggle. They really struggle finding their place in life after hockey. And I think that's why with fishing, that is the one thing that just keeps my brain occupied, my anxiety down. It's all the above. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it took a long time to find that.
But see, what's interesting about that we can start talking about, and feel free to ask me questions, but you got the competitive, aggressive style and sport of hockey, which is, win or lose, and then you got fishing.
Right.
Which is a completely different contrast. Do you feel like that was a good balance to get your mind off of hockey, or do you feel like you liked it because it pulled different sides of you out?
I think both. I think it was a combination of both, because you could find similarities, with the two, which is kind of odd. You wouldn't think there would be anything, but there is. Yeah. And it was a balance. I mean, it was just my way of, okay, I'm off the hockey rink, now I can go focus on something else. But at the same time, you're always thinking, still thinking hockey, of course, but it's a good balance, really good balance.
Okay.
Some guys like to play golf. I like to fish. It's just, you find your something, outside of hockey, and it was just every minute, of course, it's all not about. Yeah.
So you kind of felt like you needed, you loved the crazy intense competitiveness and the limelight and all that, but then you wanted to have like an escape, right? To get your mind off of hockey. Yep, for sure. Right. Yeah.
And and I did do a lot of competitive fishing too. I fished on the professional walleye trail for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it was. And it helped me there, because I did have, I felt like I had a competitive edge.
Yep.
Where I could grind and I could think, things would go wrong. It wasn't a big deal. It's just like hockey. You miss an empty net, you got to brush it off. You can't dwell on it. So it's like losing a fish or whatever. You just don't dwell on it. You move forward and you keep plugging away. And next thing you know, you do pretty good. And you're like, okay,
yeah,
mission accomplished.
I had the my wrestling side, and I started when I was 6. And as I was getting very competitive, like middle school, high school, I started to feel like I needed an escape and something to get my mind off of it, and it was music for me, right? And my whole family came from a very musical background, and then it translated to I battled a lot of stress and anxiety, and I would say I was always kind of like that, but middle school, like when I started to wrestle varsity and as an 8th grader, it was like stress and pressure, and then it turned into where I needed headphones before my matches. And then in off season, I would write music. I would write songs. I was writing songs in high school. I didn't tell anybody really, and it wasn't like I was recording music, right?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then in college, I met a few buddies that were actually doing some like hip hop tours and stuff, and they're like, oh, come along with, and then I would go to some of their local shows in the Twin Cities, and then it just dawned on me, I'm like, I can do this. Yeah. So then I kind of took on, with your, hockey with fishing, mine was like wrestling with music, and it was a release, and I still do it now. And I've written and recorded over 300 songs.
No kidding.
I just don't post them. And it's for me, like you, I don't know if it's like a hobby, it's a pastime. It's it's something I love to do, but it's nothing that like I wanted to be as a career.
I get it. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, it's funny you mentioned the part about a lot of athletes struggle, either whether it's right after college or it's right after pro. And I would say it might be a little more intense going college to pro and then pro once you're done with pro, how to transition into the real world, right?
It's not easy.
What was one of your biggest struggles there?
Well,
if you had to
money.
take you back, money?
Yeah, because you're so well taken care of and you don't worry about a thing, and then all of a sudden you step out of it, you're not making that money anymore, and now you start worrying about everything because it's like, well, I got to figure this out, and you don't find that high either. Like it's an adrenaline rush playing in the NHL. I mean, you score a goal and in Chicago and there's 22,000 screaming people that love you, and you're like, you feel like you're walking on water, and then all of a sudden that's gone. It's not there anymore. So it's different, and you got such a camaraderie with your teammates, that's your workplace, and they know you better than most of your family knows you, because you're together every day, and all of a sudden that's gone, so you step into a different workplace and you're like, how come everybody's so like down? Like let's go do something, and it's like they look at you like you got 3 heads, and it's like like okay, it's different. It's just so different.
It really is. And do you feel like, coaches in professional and or college, do you feel like there's like a failure in there where like, they're not helping their athletes to be successful after the sport because they're so focused on winning?
100%. Like you're a pawn. I mean, you are. I mean, you're a piece of the puzzle, and when your piece doesn't fit the puzzle anymore, they just throw you away. And that's kind of what happens. I mean, there's certain guys obviously that are, they hang around. I call it milking the game. Like they just don't leave it. They somehow get into scouting or coaching or something, and they don't have the passion to be there, but they don't know what else to do. So they just hang on for dear life, and so they can hang in there. I wasn't one of them guys. I was like, okay, it's time to make a change now and step away. And coaching was close for me when I did coach. I coached 4 years with the Bobcats, 11 years with Bismarck High, and I loved it. And in order for me to pursue it, I had to leave again, and I did not want to leave at that time. So it's like, okay, I got to find something else. One of them deals. So. See, what's crazy is then you did 11 years coaching at Bismarck High. Yep. I did 8 years right after college. Yep. But you went, you would college pro, and then you went in to then coaching high school. Yep. I went
D1 college, and then I went into then coaching back to high school back here.
Right.
We both coached at Bismarck High.
Yep.
And I loved it, and I was like motivated and pumped up, and I was so excited to like maybe take over the program one day, and I wanted to like, you know, do do like, you know, national teams and do all the summer stuff. And I started, you know, plugging into all that, and I had a lot of good memories, a lot of good experiences, and we won a lot of state titles, you know. But then I got to a point in my coaching career, because I had a, you know, brand new daughter. When I stepped away, I think she was 3, and I was, you know, really growing my mortgage business, and I was also, you know, trying to, you know, be a good husband and try to manage all these hats. I had like 5-6 hats, and it was like, okay, but I want to coach, and the coaching style I wanted to do was 5-6 months out of the year, and 4 of them you're gone every weekend. You're on little school buses, and you're in hotel rooms, and it's not just like, oh, I coached a little bit and then the rest of the year I'm off. When you're at a top program, you're not just coaching 4 months, you're coaching 12.
It's all
right? But then I got to a point with stuff in my coaching, whether it was some of the politics I was dealing with and some changes that were happening inside of the school systems, and who was getting this and that, and I don't know where you're at, and you know, I'd love to spend maybe a little bit of time in this pocket. I haven't talked about this in a long time, and you know, maybe a little touchy subject for me, maybe for you too.
It is.
Oh, okay.
That's why I stepped down.
Okay. Well, take me back a little bit, and then I'll, you know, share a little bit too. But right when you stepped away that year, I think you stepped away at the state tournament, right?
Yeah, right after.
Right after, right?
Yeah.
Was it that night you called it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We already knew. I mean, as a staff, we knew we were all going to step down. There were some incidents that happened throughout the season that, you know, we needed help with, you know, obviously from a professional standpoint, where, you know, there was a parent situation, and it didn't involve, you know, playing time or anything like that. It just was a player situation, parent situation, and a coach, and it was very uncomfortable. And we went to our administration and was like, hey, we need some help here. And they pawned it off on us, and that wasn't right. And that really set our whole staff on tilt the whole year, because everybody was like, holy crap, they're not going to have our backs. If something actually did go down, like they're just going to bail on us. So it was just, we weren't comfortable with that. And then one other thing that happened, and it was like everybody at the same time was like, this is our last year. I'm like, yeah, it's unfortunately our last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I've been very public about it. Like I've never shied away from it. I mean, it's, you know, when a certain individual makes 6 figures and a coach is getting paid $7,500 a year, the 6-figure guy needs to step in and do his job, and he didn't do his job. So that's pretty point blank. Like, I don't sugarcoat it. So, and that was most of the reason. And there was a few other things too that I never agreed with, you know, like same deal, wanted to go to some tournaments, wanted to do some things to expose our kids, give them a great opportunity. And we were always told no. And it's like, we're not doing this for us. Like we want to help these kids. Like some of these kids could go play past here. And if we can get them into this tournament, there's going to be people that are going to watch them, and they're going to have that opportunity. But if they don't go there, they're not going to get that opportunity. And that was very frustrating, because we could just never make it, push it over the edge to really make it elite. And there's no. And we'd always have it covered. It wasn't a financial thing either. We always had it covered. You know, the boosters were on board. Let's do it. Let's go. We'll pay for it all. Let's go. And then all of a sudden, no, you can't go.
Was that 2019?
No, my last year was oh boy, when was my last year? Yeah, it might have been right around there, 18 maybe.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
Okay.
27. Yeah, probably 18. I think it was 18 or 19.
That's crazy, because my last year was 19. So like, did you start that before, so that year that you left, let's say it was 19, did you start to see things on the wall a few years prior to?
Oh yeah.
So it was a leading up thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I brush it off because I cared about the kids.
Yes.
I wanted to stick around and help them, and I brush it off. I mean, put it this way, I never, you're always supposed to have your end of the year meeting with the head AD, and him and I kind of got in a pretty good battle one time during one of these meetings, and after that meeting, I never had a one-on-one with him ever again. It's like, you change it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, because he was telling me, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to be better at this, better at that. And I said, okay, that's fair. I'll take that constructive criticism. I'll be better. But now it's my turn, and I come fired. And he got redder than red. I could see his hands clambering on his desk. And I said, you might as well just fire me. And he didn't do it. And I walked out and never had another meeting with him ever again.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, see, it, like, for me, because when I was in high school at Bismarck High, it was the early 2000s, and, as you know, the dynasty in the wrestling world at Bismarck High, right?
Incredible.
But what I started to see is when some, what do you want to call it? Jeez. Okay. So what I started to see is some administration stuff change, right? And when I started to, feel it and see it, I was like, okay, things should still be good, because I was seeing, the program still have the ability to go to multiple out-of-state tournaments.
Right.
Not really being told what to do and what not to do.
Right.
Kind of just like trust that the coaches there and the coaches that are on the staff are going to help, get Bismarck High Wrestling to a national scene again, right?
Right.
And I came from being coached by Milo Trusty, Jeff Schumacher, Scott Nolan, and I was at a place where it's like, cool. I'm right out of college, excited, pumped. I want to see this program go bigger and better and get back on the national scene, which requires 12 months out of the year, which requires summer stuff, fall stuff, postseason stuff, lifting programs, like all that. Because, when I went out to Minneapolis and wrestled out 6 years in top programs and talked to other coaches about how they're running their youth programs, and I saw, it's clear. Like kids in middle school, high school, they need to be on lifting programs, because if not, you're going to fall behind. And you can be like, well, it's 8th graders, 9th graders, they shouldn't be lifting that much. And it's like, well, I don't know. Go to these other states and see how big these kids are, right? So do you want to be competitive, or do you want to be like average competitive? So my mindset was like guns a-blazing. And then when I started to see administration and then stuff happening on the coaching staff with back closed meetings, and then it was like, oh, now you can only go to one out-of-state tournament. And I'm like, yeah, but when I was in high school, we went to 4 of them. And I want to add this tournament and this tournament. And it was like, I was trying to go at like a fun national big scale level with the high school program. And then when I saw people there that were, had the power over me, and then they were like shutting the door, I was like, something's not adding up here. Right? And then I wasn't getting the answers that I felt like were needed to happen. And then coaching changes happened without me being in those meetings. And then I'm like, okay, I get it. And once I saw that, and then once I still had like a core of kids that I had coached for like 6-7 years, and now they were all juniors and seniors in high school. So I'm like, I'm going to see these guys through, because they're like brothers to me, sons to me. And then I'm looking at my 3-year-old daughter that deserves my time and attention, and my business, right, that I love. But I really love this program, and I want to see it like go to the next level. But then when I was seeing it that I couldn't take it there, and I wasn't going to be able to because of the people above me and the power they had, I'm like, you know what? This has to be it. So then after the state tournament, I was like, I'm stepping away. Right?
Sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's almost spooky how close that is.
And it is very crazy. And it's still in me.
Oh, yeah.
Like when people are like, would you go back and coach? My answer right now is like maybe. But it's not like a hard yes or hard no. But I would need a very specific setup. And I would need, a lot of freedom. And
you want to do what you want to do to make sure that you can elevate the program. And when you got people setting up roadblocks, it makes it extremely difficult. And you're working under, restrictions that aren't fair. And it ain't fair to the kids. Because the kids deserve it. They want to do it.
They do.
Oh, absolutely. And when you keep getting told, no, can't do that. Can't go there. No. And it's like, what are we fighting against?
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why we all stepped away.
What boils me and really bothers me is when, and it was just fine and kids were healthy and being successful in their sports in this town. Transfers. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. How, I don't understand how grown adults should be able to tell kids, you can't go to this high school when you only live 5 minutes away or 2 minutes away. Yep. So we're going to put restrictions on who can transfer and who can't. And the people that are now in control of that, it's laughable. Yep. It's laughable because we got 5 high schools now in this city? Yep. So you got Bismarck High, Bismarck Legacy, Bismarck Century, you got Mandan, St. Mary's, and then you got Shiloh. Yep. So, but Bismarck Mandan isn't like a Minneapolis St. Paul. No. Bismarck Mandan is like you could literally be in middle of Bismarck, and then if you wanted to go to Legacy, you're like 4 minutes here, Century or 2 minutes here, Bismarck High or 3 minutes here. Right. But if you live in a certain spot, sorry. Yeah. And then like back in the day when kids wanted to transfer for a sport, and now you're telling them you can't, that's dictating and controlling that kid's for sure. Memories, career, path, everything. But we're going to try to keep it fair.
Yeah, it's not, and that and that's why I was fighting hard not to bring, not saying it's bad because Legacy eventually would have enough kids to play hockey, so on and so forth. Yep. But I knew as soon as they came in that Bismarck High would suffer, and they've been suffering since I left, and it's unfortunate. You build a program like my dad coached, the early years, and him and Kenny Erickson built it to a certain point, and then they left it, and a few other guys jumped in to try and take the reins, and then I stepped in, and I was like, okay, we got to get this thing back, and we got it back to where it was when I played, and then beyond, and we want to, state title in 14, but at the end of the day, it was a roadblock after that. It was just like, we can't, I want to make it bigger, better. And same deal. We had kids that wanted to come play. It's like anything, people ask about that all the time. Like, how do we make our program better? Well, it's got to be a good program. Like, kids want to play or go to a good program. And if you offer a good program, whether it's coaching staff, whatever it may be, the people come. They just do. And we had a lot of kids coming from all over the place. Like, we had families that uprooted from Dickinson and moved into Bismarck, and we had families from Hazen do the same thing. We had a Canadian kid, we had a Colorado kid, and they'd come to town, they'd study the programs, they're like, no, we're moving to the Bismarck High District because we want to play there. But then you got a kid that lives in town, he's like, I want to play for Coach Peluso, but I live up by, here, I want to transfer down to Bismarck High, and they no. But I don't agree with that.
And the thing now is back in the early 2000s, the housing market versus the housing market today. Right. So like literally if you're trying to tell a family and a kid that where you live, you guys need to move and then we'll let you go to that school. Yeah, but the problem is there's not many houses on the market and the rates are where they're at right now. So to tell to just be like, oh, if you want your kids that are all in sports to go play here because the program's better than this program, sell your house and move over here. Right. They're literally like making families take financial hits. Yep. And for anybody that you were to talk to and say, do you think it's right to make a family move their home that they love just because 5 minutes over here versus here? And they're trying to keep everything fair. Yeah. This is my thing, right? So if we have a system right now, which I know in multiple cities in multiple states all over the country, they're not handling it like this. There's open reign and free reign to transfer in a lot of big communities. And if we're trying to build something here where it's like, well, we're doing this so it's like all fair so we don't get parents complaining, you're going to have these kids trying to see this system that's built on like, if it's fair, you go to college and once they graduate high school, then you jump up into the college ranks. Do college play fair? Does college play fair? They do not play fair. Absolutely. And then you get into the pros, you get into the real world. Does the real world play fair?
Never has.
So why are we boxing in this group of kids in a system where it's like, well, they're young, we got to show them it's fair. Right. I don't see the argument because we got to prepare kids for the real world, right? Where once you get to college, It's a business.
Right.
Now college kids can get sponsors, right? They can get paid.
They can make big money.
They can make as much money as pro players can get right now.
Some of them are making more.
Making more.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are we protecting them for a couple years
Right.
and then telling kids what they can and can't do?
Correct.
If this kid wants to go play here because the program's better, we should let him.
Let them play.
Let them transfer.
Yeah, because it balances out. Like, because there's kids on the other side who are like, I'm never going to play there. I'm going here. You know what I mean? So it balances itself out, and it's just sickening. Like, it just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I can't. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, and like telling a program that's successful what they can put on their schedule and their roster.
Right.
It's like, no, that's why there's coaches. Mm-hmm. The coaches should be able to go, okay, we got a 3-4 month season, and if we want to go out to this tournament, out to this tournament, and out to this tournament, they're going to have to fundraise, right? They're going to have the boosters kick in. Yeah. But if the boosters and their kids fundraise in the summer or fall, and they get the sponsors, and they have the money to pay for the hotels and the gas and the busing, and even if they want to fly somewhere, they want to, take the team out somewhere.
Right.
Why should administration tell them they can't?
They shouldn't.
Why should guys and gals at some place tell coaches and kids where they can train and where they can go compete?
Right. Yeah, I mean, realistically, the top guy that's got that power should be like a coach and be like, yes, let's get those kids there. Let's do this. That's going to be great for our program. That's going to be great for those kids.
Yep.
And it wasn't. That's not what it was.
No, period. Nobody outside of that program should be able to tell the coaches and the kids where they can compete, if they can do transfers or not, and or how and when they can train.
Correct.
That's none of their business.
No, I agree.
They're not the coach.
No.
And then if this whole culture is being built where the coaches only have half control because there's other guys that are controlling what the coaches can tell their players and their athletes, it's just mind-blowing to me. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, well, we got to make sure everything's fair. And it's like, well, kids that are training and competing and wanting to be, either in the Olympics or college or pros, they need to have embedded in them by at the latest middle school.
Oh, yeah.
And then high school, it's go time. It's 12 months out of the year. I mean, because whether you're in wrestling, hockey, basketball, football, soccer, whatever, if you're not training 12 months out of the year, and then now you're getting into your high school career, as you know, the top athletes in high school right now, they are doing all 12 months in their sport. Yeah, they take a couple weeks off.
In some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. In the summer they might be doing like camps, and then they'll take a few weeks off, and then they'll do like another camp, take a few weeks off, go hang out with some friends. But you can't just only train for 4 months out of the year.
No, not unless you're a multiple athlete. Like, you play football, baseball, hockey, golf. They're still getting their training from their sport in other sports. But anymore, it's become more specialized. So you need to be paying attention to, especially like for a hockey guy, you better be skating because you're going to lose that edge. You're going to lose, you're not going to be as fast. You're not going to be as quick. So there's a lot of that too. And, when you're told you can't or whatever, it's not fair to that kid.
I'll never forget, Milo Trusty told me when I was in 7th grade, he met with me and my parents at my house and was like, next year you have a chance at being the varsity 103 pounder as an 8th grader, wrestling high school kids. But we have a lot of work to do. And then he's like, okay, he goes, do you want to be good? Or do you want to be great?
Right.
And I'll just never forget that sentence. And I looked at him like, well, great.
I want to be great.
And then he goes, 12 months out of the year.
Yep.
And I was like, perfect. Because then, it just set in.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I have nothing against middle school, high school kids that want to do 2 sports or 3 sports through their whole life. Especially if their goal after high school isn't really to play in college, but they, they love the track, but then they love football or they love football and wrestling. Great, do both. But if you want to excel and absolutely either get a college scholarship or you want to go pro. Kids at that level are already doing it 12 months out of the year in middle school. And if you're not, then you won't be able to catch up, because that window, that window of teenage years, when those skills and that mindset's being developed, that's why you see so many, and I don't know, there has been a culture shift for sure, but that's where I've seen so many kids, especially in North Dakota, where, you know, because of a lot of this culture that's been shifting, you know, hey, you know, let's not do as much. Like, we don't want to burn out our kids. Which, you know, I'd love to get your thoughts here on burnout, because I don't believe in burnout. The reason why I don't believe in actually just the word burnout, I think that the deeper conversation that people don't want to have, burnout happens when you're doing something that you don't want to do. And you're being forced to do it. And then you break.
Because it's not your passion.
There you go. So when people go, we're going to burn them out, we're going to burn them out, or we can't burn out our kids. Listen, I see all these passionate athletes that are doing it 12 months out of the year. Do you see any burnout in their eyes? No, they're excited. They want more. They're asking their parents, can we go here? Can we go here? We want to go. It's burnout is for a kid that doesn't really like the sport very much, and then you're forcing them to be in it. Then you're going to burn out that kid.
That kid will fizzle away. And that's I used to say it all the time. I said, you know, I want to coach hockey players, not kids that play hockey. I mean, it's so true. Like, give me hockey players, not kids that play hockey, and there's a difference.
It's a huge difference.
And you know, my dad told me one time too, almost the same line. He was like, "You want to be a good player? Or do you want to be a great player?" I said, well, yeah, I want to be a great player. He says, okay, well, then good players just show up when they feel like it. Great players show up every day and give it. And then that stuck, you know. And then if something wasn't working, he'd go, yeah, it ain't working. Eh? I said, no, I want to work harder. Okay. But it's so simple, but it's the truth. You know, it
is.
Yeah, and it stuck. I mean, that was, you know, but yeah, nobody ever made me go skate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to go do it. And I had to make a choice. I was a baseball player, you know, a very good baseball player, but I had I think 16 years old, it was, shoot, I got to decide now whether I'm going to go to the, you know, play baseball summer, or do I go to the, select USA camps. You know, I had to make that choice, and I went to the select USA camps, and as they say, the rest is history. But there comes a point where you got to make a choice, and then it does become a 12-month out of the year deal, and you train and play for that. That's what you do.
And I just think the number one thing parents can do for their athletes, their kids right now, if they want them to be successful in sports, you got to get your kids around mentors, right? And it's not just, and I'll share a few stories here in a second, but I think the biggest thing that they can do is not just rely on, let's say, the head coach. They got to have their kids around other coaches in the sport that are either retired or maybe, let's say their kid is in middle school, you know, get them around college coaches, high school coaches, coaches in other states. That's why going places, at camps and picking up on different styles, you know, because the best thing for me that I know changed my wrestling career was when I was in middle school, my parents, you know, helped push and get me to go train with Milo and train with different coaches so I could get different aspects and different mentalities and different mindsets. Because, you know, kids need the support. But a lot of times if a kid is in a sport and they love it and their coach at that school that they're at is like average, it could really ruin it for the kid, right? Sure. And especially if the assistant coaches are kind of in it, kind of not in it. Maybe those assistant coaches coach multiple different sports and they're kind of in one foot out the other. A healthy coaching program where it is about the hearts of their kids and the minds of their kids and growing those kids and making it bigger, like that's how you prevent burnout. I think burnout is honestly terrible coaches that shouldn't be coaching.
I agree.
And then parents that are pushing the kid when the kid really doesn't want to be in the sport.
Want to be there.
That's what burnout is.
That's what burnout is.
Burnout's not, we can't train these kids too much, they're too young and we don't want to.
No,
it's like save it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree. And I've always said, and hockey's a little different, wrestling in this regard, but I always said I need to be around really good hockey players. Like I gotta go play against or with these guys because that's going to make me better. Like me playing, I'll use golf as an example. Like I'm an okay golfer, but if I wanted to be a really good golfer, I got to find the best guys in town and go play with them, because then I'm going to try and chase and get better and push to get to that level. But if I play golf with guys that are like me or not as good, I'm not going to get any better.
That's right.
I'll stay that same, you just stay in that lane. But you got to force yourself out of that, and it's hard to do. I mean,
it is.
You got to surround yourself with good people, and that's kind of when I coached. I put together what I felt was the best staff you could possibly put together for a high school hockey program, especially in North Dakota. And we gave her. I mean, we were like you, dedicated. It was 12 months. It wasn't a 3.5, 4 month job. It was all year. We were, scheming, thinking of different ways to do things, talking to the kids, like, hey, you guys get everybody together tonight, make sure they're all at the rink, it was constant, trying to keep that competitive edge, and we had a group of kids that were very competitive and they were hockey players. They wanted to play, they wanted to win, and that fed the young kids coming in. They saw that group and they're like, yeah, we want to play with those guys and we want to be there.
Yeah.
So it's just an amazing thing.
Yeah. I've always learned that thing of, I've always, lived in a motto of hard work beats talent when talent doesn't want to work hard.
There you go.
Because I wouldn't say when I was right into wrestling, I was just like out the gates, the most talented kid ever, the most, quickest or whatever, but I had to work at it, but what I would say now is you see it in certain sports for sure, but the one thing I know that was missing for me, and that is now so prevalent in like college programs, is healthy mindsets, and really focusing on the health of the kids' minds, because the mental toughness side, but on top of it, having fun, and I think where a lot of teams and programs can go wrong is where they're making it so about winning and not about having fun. And that delicate balance of having fun and putting the fun back into the sport. Because I just got done watching the D1s on TV, the wrestling, the NCAA Division 1s. And I would bet 8 or 9 out of 10 kids that came off the mat, 'cause I interviewed a lot of them, that would either just win a big semis match or win the finals. And they were like the comments they made about like, I'm just having fun, or I made this about enjoying myself, and the coaching program have it so fun in the room, and it's it's about putting back the playing into the sport and the love for the sport, but that comes from top down. That comes from administration, coaching, booster programs, support, and it's such a big thing. And it was cool to see, because the kids that were winning at this high level, they're literally like laughing before the match. I see them underneath the thing, and they're like, smiling and giggling and joking with their coach, and they have music on, and it's not like we gotta win. It's more of like, I'm gonna go out there and have some fun.
Well, you gotta be loose. I mean, you gotta let your abilities take over, and if you're gripping the stick, or in your case, it's gonna go, whatever, that ain't gonna work. You gotta rely on your abilities, and you can't be thinking about it either. Like, you just gotta do. Where that's where a lot of kids struggle. They're thinking about it, they bog themselves down, and the next thing you know, it's over. You're like, how did that happen? Well, that's why it happened. But it's interesting.
Did you through your career, did you have times where you felt like you had like mental struggles, or do you feel like you always stayed pretty even, or where were you at with your mental? I
didn't think about it much, to be real honest with you. I mean, I played to play. I had fun playing and couldn't wait. I was always, I think for me, I was just so focused on being the best I could be, because I was the same way. I wasn't like I was the most talented, gifted person. I had some abilities that, God gave me that a lot of folks might not have. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to make sure that I was the best on the rink that night. And, I had a lot of games where, I wasn't doing much. It was kind of just things weren't bouncing right. It wasn't happening. And then, oh, shoot, it's 4-4. We got to win this game. And then I go score the game winner. And then the rest of the game I could care less about because, hey, guess what? My name's in the paper tomorrow. One of them deals. And I lived for it. I loved it. I thrived on it. That's probably why if I went back in my career, most teams I ever played on, I probably had the most game-winning goals. I had most overtime goals because I wanted to be that guy. Like I wanted to, let's win, let's go. And then I'd have a blast, because I loved it when I'd get tackled by my teammates and they're going bonkers because we just won the game. I lived for that.
Yeah. That adrenaline rush.
That's what I lived for every game. I mean, it didn't matter what level it was. I lived for that. Well, I wanted to score the big goal. Like that's what I wanted to do.
Do you feel like any of the coaches in your time frame had a good play into you loving it, or do you feel like it was just really in you and it was just hard to ever shake that part of you? You know what I mean?
I don't think it was any individual coach that did it for me. I mean, I had great coaches. Like I was fortunate all the way through. I mean, I had just fantastic coaches, but I think from a coaching standpoint, especially now, being that I've done both, I can see now what the coaches were probably thinking about me. They're like, just let him do his thing because at the end of the day, it's going to work out for us. You know what I'm saying? So I think I had a little more rope than a lot of players did because of my ability to be that guy that was probably going to score that goal or what have you. So I always kind of got that extra leash, but not all players will get that because they're different type of players. But that was kind of my deal, and they just kind of let me go. They grab my ear once in a while and be like, hey, you got to get your butt back and make sure you're playing defense too, and okay, and then I'd snap back out of it. But they knew that if they gave me enough, it was going to probably end up pretty good at the end. So it's just, I don't know, it is weird. But every coach kind of must have figured it out because it's like every one of my coaches was the same except for maybe one. I had one coach in my pro career that just was trying so hard to get me to, play a certain way, and I'm just like, dude, you're taking away my ability to help us. You know what I mean? And that was the only time.
If you had to give kind of like one core underlying advice to high school and college coaches out there right now in today's day and age with the kids that are out there right now, what would you say would be the biggest thing you would tell them to do, focus on, and understand right now?
Yeah, I think learn every player individually. Kind of like what I was talking about with myself. Like every player's got something that they can bring to the table, but you got to learn that as a coach. You got to look at a kid and go, okay, he's probably not going to score a lot of goals, but he's probably going to win a lot of faceoffs. So let's build him up. Let's make sure that he knows that he's our best faceoff guy. And let's work with them and make sure that he is the best. You know what I mean? Like you got to find their individual skill that they're really good at, or one part of their game that they're really good at, and focus on that. I watch my daughters play sports right now, and I fortunately they play sports I don't know a whole lot about because I didn't play them. But at the end of the day, I'm watching from a coach's standpoint, and I'm thinking, okay, now if I don't know nothing about volleyball or basketball, but holy crap, like I can see this one girl, like I would tell her that she's an unbelievable passer. Like let's work with her, making sure that she knows that that's what she's good at. Or holy crap, this girl can just drive the bucket. Okay, let's grab her now and let's say, hey, you are that's your strength, and I don't see that, and that's like it's frustrating for me because I think I did a very good job of that as a coach. Like I'd find their individual players and what they're good at, and we could get them all to kind of jive together, and that's probably why we had the success we had. I mean, because we were never as talented as any of the Grand Forks schools or any of that. I mean, those kids, they were a cut above. But at the end of the year, we were always right there with them because, one, we worked extremely hard, and our guys were very conditioned to know their roles, and they bought into it, and they loved it, and they thrived off it. Because, like, great example, I remember I had a tournament in Grand Forks. It was a holiday tournament. And I love this tournament because we would always play, probably Central or Red River, and there was a good chance if we could get, to the state tournament that we'd see these guys again. And I don't admit this very often, but I'd almost set our guys up to fail because I didn't want them to think that they'd arrived yet, So I'd put kids in situations they probably shouldn't have been in at that particular time, and maybe it didn't work out. And we'd come back to the drawing board and be like, hey, it's no big deal. You lost the face-off, they won the hockey game. Not a big deal. It might happen again. You might have to take that face-off in a bigger game. And I'll never forget it. We were beating Central in that holiday tournament for the championship. I mean, we were 2 teams in that tournament playing for the championship of that game, and I think we were up like 6-5, and I threw a line out on the rink that I shouldn't have thrown out there. I knew that as a coach. And Mark Erickson, my assistant coach, comes over and goes, what are you doing? I said, Mark, it's no big deal. They're probably going to lose the face-off. They're probably going to tie the game up. But I want these guys to figure it out. Like, I'd rather have it happen today than February. He looked at me and he's like, I can't believe you're doing this. And the puck dropped. They scored the goal, tied it up. They won the hockey game. We left and everybody was down or whatever. But it was okay. I was like, that's fine. They're mad, which is good. And we're going to use this now the rest of the year. We did. And that same line in the championship game, there was 4.7 seconds of the game. We're up 2-1, state title game. I put that line back out. They won the faceoff.
No way.
Yep.
Look at that.
Yep. And we won.
That's so cool.
Yep.
That's a cool story.
It's unbelievable.
That's such a cool story. Yep. You know, I would say for what I would put out there for coaches is that, you know, not as much as the focus of working so hard as it is working smart.
Yeah.
Because I would be focusing on kids' mental wellness.
Right.
And focusing on fun. Yep. But also delegating. So, you know, having a good full coaching staff where they're integrating and they're investing in the players and the athletes' relationships, right? Building relationships throughout the season, kind of like how, you know, you would do stuff during the season to like build on towards the end of the year. Correct. It's not just about we're going to try to get better every week. It's about the relationships, because when athletes really love their coaches and when they really love their parents and they really love the team, when you have that camaraderie, your athletes work that they compete harder.
Oh yes,
because they have a reason to. Yep. So instilling inside of your team who they're doing it for, right, and why are they competing? Right. Is it just for a state title? Because if you're just putting that messaging into your team that we're just going to try to win, come on, we got to win. Well, the kids won't like attach to that as much, versus you're doing it for your coaches, you're doing it for your family, you're doing it for after sports, which we got into, right? Like this is building you as people.
Yeah, I go, I'm not coaching you guys to be, hockey player. I'm coaching you guys to be better citizens when you leave this rink.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and most of those guys, today, and it's awesome. I'm obviously a fisherman now, and all these kids that I coach, I mean, now they're all the same. Like they're all fishermen, and but I run into them all over the place. And
that's
like,
cool.
Coach, I didn't get it then, but I get it now. Thank you for doing that. And it's like, okay, you got her. That's what I wanted. That's all I cared about.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What's the feeling like when you kind of go watch your daughters compete in their sports? Is it, being the coach kind of that you are? Do you like it? Like, is it a different speed for you?
Yeah, it is. I watch sports in a different light with it, as I'm sure you do. Like I always watch from a coach's standpoint, but I always have to go sit away from everything. Like I don't want anybody around me. Because I just want to be in my own little world up there. Okay. But I love watching it. It's so fun to watch them, grow and play these sports. And like I said, they're playing sports I don't know a whole lot about, but I enjoy that. Are they pretty competitive? Yeah, both of them are very, very competitive. And I can see it with them too, just like all the stuff we were talking about. My one daughter, she's an absolute, just loves volleyball. Like if she could play volleyball 13 months out of the year, she'd do it. And her other sports she likes, and she's good at them, but I don't think it's the same passion as the volleyball. So you see it at that age already, and you don't try to steer them. I let them figure it out themselves. I try not, interfere a whole lot, because I want them to figure out what they want. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's all about the memories. Let them make friends, build memories, and just have fun. So that's cool. And if it turns into a passion, great. if it doesn't, I get that too.
Then the other one plays basketball?
They play, so my youngest what does my youngest do? She's still doing fast pitch softball and volleyball. Mm-hmm. And then my oldest is still basketball, softball, and volleyball.
Oh, wow.
So so the oldest is around the clock. Like as soon as one season's done, she's hopping into another one. And so we're just like tonight now, they'll have their first softball game, so I'll go watch that.
Oh.
Yeah. So
where's that going to be at?
That'll be at I think they're at the Star Inn tonight.
Okay.
So yeah, they play a lot of games up at Legacy because they got the turf up there too. So.
Oh, yeah.
So it's usually cold. I usually just wear my ice fishing stuff because it's what it feels like. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I miss a little bit of their basketball seasons, but because I'm gone guiding up at Devil's Lake. But I'm fortunate because I'm home spring and fall, and that's one's volleyball and now it's softball, so I get to see all of them.
That's so cool. Yeah. So explain a little bit about your business with your fishing business and stuff like that, and just kind of give me a breakdown of all of it and how long you've been doing it. Yeah, so I mean, I've guided probably for 20 years total, off and on. I kind of did it part-time. I guided the summers, of course, when I was coaching, and I was working in the school district, but it worked out great because you got your summers off, so I'd guide in the summers. And then when I was coaching, I got a buddy that has a guide service up at Devil's Lake, and he always asked me if I wanted to do it full time. And I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe someday. Well, then when I stepped down from coaching, it was like, this would be a good time now if I want to do it full time to do it. And I talked to him, and he's like, absolutely. I'd love to bring you on so you can guide all winter. And so I go up there and I guide for him pretty much all winter. I do my own stuff too. So I got my own guide business too, but I work under him in the winter and then backfill my off days with my own. Okay. And then I come back here and I run my own basically on the river here in Bismarck from, April 1st until about, usually about May 15th. Okay. And then I go to Devils for a month. And so again, I get to change hog fishing and all that. And it's all fresh and new and exciting. So I spend about a month there, and then I go up to Skakawea and spend basically half of June and all of July up there. Okay. And then August, I pull my boat with a van, so I always say I'm on tour. Van hauling, I call it. So I'm on tour in August. I got to go back and forth between Devils and Sac. Okay. And then I slow her down a little bit in September, and then October 1st, I'm back on the river and guide that till freeze up. And then as soon as that basically is done, I'm back at Devil's Lake for the winter. So, wow. So it's, 300 plus days a year. And okay. I get to see a lot and catch a lot of fish. So people, no matter what, you'll take on new clients that'll hire you to guide them and show them where the best spots are to fish. And most people are coming in for 2-3 days. They might be coming in from Wisconsin or Nebraska. To fish here for the first time? Yeah, a lot of them are first time. Some are bucket lists. People that never walleye fished or what have you, but yeah, you get all kinds. We get a lot of repeat business too. Like our clientele just seems to keep coming back because they have a good time. They catch a lot of fish and it's stress free. They don't, you don't have to bring a boat. You don't have to bring nothing. You just show up and hop in, and we take care of the rest. So. And do you do any advertising at all? Not a ton. I mean, it's more word of mouth. It's a lot, like I said, a lot of repeat. I mean, certainly got the websites and the Facebook pages and all that. They're pretty big. I mean, they've grown pretty good and got a pretty good following, and it just seems to kind of carry from there. So. Okay, and what's it called? The name? Mike Peluso Outdoors. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, cool. And do you like help them from, like, you have all the supplies and you also take them out, and then at night wherever they stay, do you kind of help them with like lodging too, wherever they need to go? We've got some lodging up at Devil's Lake, and it's Skakawea for them, so we can get them set up in there. Okay. It's pretty much turnkey for them. They show up, drop their bags off, and we tell them we're picking them up at 6 or whatever. Fish usually, the summer times we're fishing about 6 hours, or whatever, but then winter's about 8 hour fishing day. We, clean, bag their fish for them. And oh, wow. So it's stress free for them. We drop them off and we take care of the rest and make sure all the stuff's ready to roll for the next day and do it again. That's so cool. Yeah, every day. Do you feel like when it comes to the Missouri River here in Bismarck, and then you got Skakawea and you got Devil's Lake, do you feel like you got those all three down to a T? Like where to fish and when, or does it change every year a lot? It changes every year, but the fortunate part for me is I'm out there every day, so I can follow the change. You know what I'm saying? So like you was just asking me, what are you doing now that you're not guiding yet? I said, well,
getting trails, finding spots, making sure when I get my first group in my boat that it's clear sailing for me. I know where we're going. I know where we're going to catch fish. I know the safe route. We're not going to hit anything, that type of thing. So yeah, it never really takes a day off. I mean, even when you're not guiding, you're still, out there trying to make sure you're staying on the bite, or finding a new bite, because everything changes. And you got a pretty good idea though, being that I've done it so much where things are going to happen or when they're going to happen. So it makes it a little easier.
What, if you had to pick like one thing that is your most sacred favorite part about getting out on the water, is there something that comes to mind of where fishing has your heart?
Yeah, for me, it's the bite. I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, I could reel in a million fish, but I'd rather just feel a bite. Like especially when I'm jig fishing. There's nothing better in my mind is when you feel that thump. And your heart still jumps, and you're like, that I live for. I can't get enough of it. And it's the same in the winter. Like, we're out there looking for fish and throw a line down periodically to see if we can get them to bite. And all of a sudden, it's just like, oh yeah, there we go. That's the adrenaline rush.
Okay.
But I do love watching people, either catch a personal best or catch their first walleye, and unfortunately, a lot of times it's their last fish too. Or they're getting towards the end of their life, and you can barely get them in a boat or a fish house, and they know it's probably the last time they're going. So I see that too. But,
oh wow!
So you see both sides of it, and I've been doing it long enough now where a lot of clients have passed away, and but you remember, it's there. The one thing you find out, especially in my line of work, because I'm guiding 3 to 4 people every day, is everybody's got a story, and you just got to give them an opportunity to tell it.
I like that.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite place to fish if you could pick one last place?
Yeah, it'd be the river right here in town.
It'd be the river?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's where I grew up. We were just talking, like my dad got sick and tired of taking me. Like, because he was like, Mike, I got to work. Like, I can't go every day. I was like 12 years old, and he's like, well, I suppose. And so he drove me down to Fox Island, backed the boat in, put my life jacket on, so I'll pick you up at 3, and did that every day for years. Until I got my driver's license at 15, and then I was just gone. I was fishing somewhere every day. I pulled my boat to school. I parked it up on one of the side streets at Bismarck High, and as soon as the bell rang, I was out my truck and I was fishing somewhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had my hockey bag in there, so when I was done fishing, I'd stop off the rink, skate after hours. And yeah, my poor parents, they were like, yeah, I don't know, he's either on the river or he's at the rink. It's one or the other. And that's just what I did.
You know what that just like shows me and is reminding me is that whatever you do, like for you it's hockey and fishing, for you neither of those were ever jobs. It's a passion.
It's a passion.
And just like the way that you would bring your boat to school and then when you were done you'd head out, you weren't feeling like, oh, I have to go fishing.
Oh, no. I wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't. I'd sit and stare at that damn clock, and it couldn't tick away fast enough so I get on the water. And then I knew my time, and then I also knew, because my parents ran the rinks, I knew the last group on the rink that night was usually around 9:45. So I'd fish to dark, go grab something to eat, and I'd be right at the rink as soon as the last group come off. I'd usually resurface the ice and skate for 2, 3, 4 hours sometimes, and could stumble into the house at 1, 2 in the morning and go to bed and go back to school. I don't know when I ever got homework. I probably didn't, but
yeah. And if I look at it, like, your whole career and your whole life, you made 2 of your passions your work.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been so big on lately, is that I've made my mortgage and real estate career a lifestyle.
Right.
I don't really feel like I work anymore because I work all the time.
Yeah.
And I've just built it into my life. It's like I built a life inside of a life. And to say that I love every little tiny thing about the mortgage world, well, no, I don't.
Right.
And some days I hate it.
Yeah.
Some days I love it.
Yeah.
But it's now become such a lifestyle, and it was for wrestling. Like if people probably looked back at me in high school, they would have probably been like, that dude's insane. That dude's crazy. He's wrestling all the time. Yeah. Wow, he's intense. And it's like, I didn't know how I felt back then because I can't put myself back in my body.
Right.
But I did know one thing. I like how you said you love that bite, like first hit, that adrenaline rush.
Nothing better.
I love to get my hand raised.
Sure.
And it was such an adrenaline rush to win and then get my hand raised.
Right.
then I'd get off the mat and go back and wherever we were hanging out that day. And then I would feel like, oh, I need that again.
Yep.
And it became like an addiction of an adrenaline rush of like, because now I want to wrestle all year and go to tournaments where I can get that adrenaline rush of winning, getting my hand raised and being like, I got it, I did it. And it's kind of like that fish. It's like, I got it, I did it, there it is, I got the fish, let's go.
And like scoring goals. That's why I couldn't wait to score a goal. Because that's the same thing, same exact thing.
It just, it just solidifies how important we need to remind ourselves, just like hearing your story and hearing your life, of finding what is your passion and trying to make it your lifestyle and your career. And I know not everybody is out there fortunate enough to have like their number one passion being what they do for their work. But I think a lot of people that want that, they can find that, right? Because some people might say, well, I love to hunt and fish, but I don't think I can make it a career. What would you say to somebody that says that? You can.
I mean, if there's a will, there's a way. I mean, it really is. I mean, I always question whether or not I could get busy enough to make fishing a full-time job, but somehow, some way, just through, constant, whatever it was, Facebook posts, fishing reports, what have you, it's slowly built, and now I'm turning people away. Like, I don't have enough days in the week to take everybody that wants to fish, so it's like, okay, it can happen, but you got to stay on it. You just can't throw it out there and, be like a dog waiting for your belly to get scratched. You gotta go find it, and you gotta go look for it. And once you get it, and you gotta make sure you do a good job, because you gotta be good at what you're doing, because people pick up on it pretty fast. If you take them out on the water and you don't know where you're going, or you run into a sandbar or something, they're gonna look like, what's this guy? Does this guy know what's going on? But when I'm ripping through logs and sandbars at 50 miles an hour, and the client's like, I'm like, don't worry, we're fine. And then you roll into a spot and start catching fish. Also, like, this guy is amazing, and then they tell their buddies, and their buddies tell their buddies, and it just travels like that. So you got to do a good job, and like I said, I love talking to people. I love their stories, and it's funny because I never tell anybody that I play hockey. I'll introduce myself as Mike, or whatever, and we'll start fishing. These people have me 3, 4, 5 years, and somehow, some way, they find out that I played hockey, and they'll get in my boat, and they're like, You're gonna seriously sit here and not tell us that you played for the Chicago Blackhawks or the Philadelphia Flyers? I'm like, well, guys, that's not my first thing I'm gonna talk about. Like, that's previous life, That's what I always say. That's my previous life, and they're just baffled that I never said a word. They're like, I'd be telling everybody. I'm like, yeah, I'm a fisherman now, so I'm not gonna. Yeah, it's weird. It's different, but it's funny.
Yeah, I don't think it's weird. I think it shows how humble you are. It shows the type of man you are, and that's really cool. Yeah. And you just had your two passions. They blended. You're doing both. Now you transitioned it. You still love hockey, and like you just said, you're taking Team USA.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you're still doing it, but a little bit less time of it. But you just made your passion of fishing. Right. Your business, your career, your job.
And obviously, if something came along in the hockey world right now that was very enticing to me, I'd probably say yes, because it's still my passion. You know what I'm saying? So
I love that.
I'm fortunate that I have both those to fall back on, and very fortunate that way.
And I'd say the same for wrestling, right? Because I still get asked sometimes, like, do you want to get back into it? Like, they'll say stuff like, oh, would you get your daughter into it?
Yeah, right.
And I was like, I've tried, but
there you go.
Because women's wrestling now is amazing, and it's growing, and I love it, and I support it. Right. But it's like, I think my daughter's going to take more of a music and education and art path, which is awesome, and I support it. Whatever she wants to do, I'm going to love on her and have her pick her thing. Yeah, but I think I would get back in the sport of wrestling if the right thing came.
Exactly.
Right? The right thing came with the right lineup, with the right alignment to my heart.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to just do something half-ass.
No, and you want to be able to do it, unfortunately, when you're really good at something, you want to do it a certain way. And sometimes people aren't always open to that. You know what I'm saying? Because they've got their way, and I understand that. But, like I'm not in the mortgage business, so I wouldn't try to tell you how to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I would trust you to carry me through that, you know, and that I would hope that people on the other side of it, let's say it was hockey, be like, okay, Mike, what do we need to do as a program, or what do we need to do? Like, it's all yours. Take it. Okay, I'll do it, but you got to let me do it. You know what I'm saying? It's probably gonna piss some people off. It's probably gonna make some people uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, if you trust it, like they always say, trust the process. If you trust it, when we're all said and done, you guys will be way better off. You know, it's one of the things. But a lot of times those situations don't arise because there's always roadblocks.
I'm always willing to ask for help.
Right.
And I love being resourceful and like reaching out and getting advice and getting guidance, because I know that I still have a lot to learn, even though I'm turning 40 this year. I know where I'm at with a lot of things in my life. Whether it's like parenting, I'm a first time parent. My daughter's 7. Like I've never raised a teenager yet.
Right.
You know, yeah, I'm in the mortgage world, but I'm learning stuff right now. Like more and bigger things where I'm like, geez, I've already been in the line of work 13, 14 years. Yep. Like this is bigger than I thought. But it takes time and it takes commitment and passion. So if you're in something and it's just like not there and you know it in your heart, whatever your thing is, still do what you need to do to make your bills and pay your bills. Right. But if you got this passion, like for you, how you made, fishing your thing, do it, but start working on it right now.
Oh yeah, don't wait.
Don't wait.
Yeah, it's you're only going to have the energy and the ability to do it for so long too. So you gotta strike when the iron's hot, and it's just one of those deals where, I had some people that were in the fishing business that I same as you. I asked a million questions. Like, how are you doing this, or how did you pull this off, or and unfortunately, fishing is a very expensive adventure. Like you got to have the equipment. And it's not easy. I don't have that extra resource, but I am resourceful. So you figure out ways to figure it out. And it's short-term pain for long-term gain, I guess would be a good way of explaining it. But yeah, you just got to get after it.
And for people that are struggling, like let's say they like some things, but they haven't felt like they've found that passion part for them. Right? I just think, for me, I didn't ever think wrestling right away was my passion, but I think you can't get a passion until you sacrifice. Yep. Because if you don't know what it is, you got to pick something, do it, and keep doing it, and keep doing it. And when you go through ups and downs and you sacrifice, I feel like that's when passion gets built. Because if you've seen it in like young athletes, I know I've seen it, and I know I can live through my story. It wasn't like, oh, you just love wrestling right away and it was the best thing ever since sliced bread, right, Travis? It's like, no, it's like once I realized I've put so much time in, and my coaches put so much time in, and my parents sacrificed so much, I'm not going to let them down. And I'm not going to let them down because I'm now passionate about it. Right. But it was like all being built at the same time at a young age. Yeah. But now when I look back on it, I took the mat with a passion-filled heart because I sacrificed. Mm-hmm. And unless you sacrifice, I don't think you can actually build a passion. Yeah, 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're going to, like you said, you're going to go through your ups and downs. And, I fail in a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you learn from those failures. And, yeah, some are life-altering, and it's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, you grow from it, you learn from it. And, it's life, unfortunately. If it was easy, everybody would do certain things, but it's not, And you got to have a little luck on your side too. You got to have certain things happen that put you in that position too. But at the end of the day, you got to put yourself in that position to have that luck too.
And did you feel like you, kind of one of my last questions for you is like with fishing and definitely with hockey, do you feel like you ever got to a place where you realized you were just loving the process of it versus like the end goal of the fishing?
Yeah.
So like you got the prep, the getting the boat ready, you got, then you get out on the water, then you fish, then you catch them, and then you got to clean them. And did you ever feel like you just loved the process versus wanting to just get to getting the fish? And or you said how you just loved to score the goal.
Right.
Did you love the process of getting to where before scoring the goal became a fun part for you?
Yeah, and I think that's people, if you're successful at something, I think that's how you become successful at it, because it does take time. There's a build up to it all. And like in fishing, you you got to know where they're at. You got to go find them. There's all that prep work, and that's the fun part, you know. And then once it all kind of comes together and it happens, and it's like, oh, that was pretty cool. I can't wait to do it again tomorrow. You know, so it just rolls every day and the next to the next. And hockey was the same way. You know, you practice all week pretending to score that big goal, and all of a sudden Friday shows around, you're playing, you know, North Dakota and at the old Ingolstadt Arena, and you know, it's a barn burner, and you score the game winner with a minute and a half left, and people are booing you and throwing crap at you, and you're like, oh yeah, this is great, you know. But that's what you live for, you know. And but it was the process of all week of practicing, you know, pretending you're doing that all week, and then all of a sudden it was reality. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. Yeah, I just think, you know, I slip in and out of trying to focus on the goal, or like, you know, where are we going to get to,
right?
Versus just always trying to. You have to retrain yourself, I think, because our world is so like A to B, and it's so like do this to get that, and once you do this, then you'll get that, and that's the goal. And that's why a lot of times I don't really like to set goals,
right? Because
I feel like if I'm on a goal setting type of situation, I'm going to get caught up in that, like that mentality of like, do this and then get this,
right?
Do this and then celebrate this, right? Versus just being like, it just is.
Yep.
And I'm going to enjoy what I'm doing. And then that will then just be a byproduct of that.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like train really hard, love practice, and love what you're doing, and then the title will just be a byproduct. Right?
Exactly.
It's like do all the fun stuff, and then you will catch a bunch of fish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like that's exactly. I mean, that's playing it any better.
Yeah. You know? No, I love that. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate
this was really fun, and I'm gonna take you up on fishing.
Yeah, there we go.